Welcome to another episode of The Road Less Traveled. I'm your host, Evan Drisner, and I'm with a colleague, friend, I don't know what I'd call you. I've met you a long time ago, Garry Derenoski, CEO and President of Bridges Health.
Thanks
for coming in.
Thanks for having me.
So Garry, I met you at a gala. I feel like that was 12 years ago. Your business was doing very well. The economy in Saskatoon was doing very well. And you were interesting enough that I thought I want to have lunch with you. And we had lunch, and I remember hearing your story, which is now 12 years later. We're in a studio, and I wanted you to share the story. So our guests have always kind of had this weird journey throughout their business life and their career, and you have that. You're now an entrepreneur doing great things in Saskatchewan and Saskatoon, but you started your career as a government employee, right?
Correct.
So
Absolutely.
Why don't you tell us a little bit about what you did, and then what made you want to jump? Like, what made you want to leave that security?
Yeah. Well, I've always never been satisfied. I think that's my problem, right?
Entrepreneurs' problems.
And so I worked for Saskatchewan Government Insurance for 18 years.
Okay.
And during that time, I tried a bunch of different things. Like I tried to sell cars and tried different entrepreneurial things and tried business and farmed a little bit with my stepdad.
Oh, okay.
Thought I'd become a farmer, and I grew up on the farm, and I quickly realized that was not going to be the right thing for me. So when I was at SGI, my last several years, I was about half my career was in personal injury department, and I saw gaps in the industry. And I shared with industry what I felt they could be doing to service the industry better, and it just didn't seem to materialize despite coaching some of the people, right? Mm-hmm. So I left to do it. And, I turned in my resignation, and no sooner turned in my resignation as playing street hockey with the kids, and a parent and I were fighting for the ball, and I lost and broke my leg.
Oh, oh no! Good start.
So I've been in this rehabilitation process, helping people, and that's my goal. And my heart is to do good things for people and help people become well, and ensure they're in a better place, either mentally or physically, than when I find them.
Yeah.
And so I became my own patient right at the very beginning, because I'd already turned in my resignation.
Yep.
SGI were an incredible employer for education, training, and they treated me incredibly well. Mm-hmm. So I break my leg, and I go down the road of, what do I do now?
Yeah.
So I hired a driver.
Yeah.
To drive me around, and I hobbled around on crutches.
Yeah.
And just the lessons you learn, right?
Of
And I
course.
thought, one of the things I decided when I left SGI was that I was never going to have an operation where no one's ever there to answer the phone. So I made sure that I had saved up enough money to hire someone to answer the phone and be my administrative assistant to answer phone and do typing and stuff like that. So right at the get-go.
Yeah.
And and then I hired this driver. The driver, though, had a dual purpose. I was training him to be a consultant like I was.
Okay.
To help people.
Yeah.
And so as the story goes, I got through that. Our first 3 months, we were working out of my house.
Yeah.
And my wife told me that I'd be having to leave.
Of course. Well, that's the thing about an entrepreneur, like doing what you did, is it's not just you.
Right.
And you already alluded, you're playing ball hockey with your kids. Like, you're leaving this stability that your family is enjoying, and then you're convincing your wife, like, I see a gap, which is an incredible thing for an entrepreneur to actually be able to see a gap in a process that you can add value to. But then the next part of that journey is convincing your family and the people that matter the most that we don't, like, the security is nice, but I think we can do something more incredible.
Yeah.
I can't, and that...
during the first 3 months, my wife laid in bed and said, we're going to be on welfare, aren't we?
Of course.
It was slow coming.
Oh, yeah,
of
course.
It wasn't that easy. And so, but during the 3 months, she says, like, you guys have to get out. Like, you're having coffee here, you're having dinner here, we have no family time, the kids have no place to go anymore.
Yeah.
So you really have to find a place to do this business.
Yeah.
So we did.
Yeah.
And we, the journey just started there, and we haven't looked back. It's been one thing after another.
Well, with that push, No, I mean, it sounds ridiculous to say push because you've already jumped, but that extra nudge of saying, look, you need to get out, was that a push that made you go, okay, now we definitely need to increase revenues or increase sales? Because it's, I mean, there was a bit of security having it in your house. Like that's a mortgage you're paying for. Now you got an extra bill because you're paying for an office.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. I mean, the office was another burden, and we didn't have money for furniture or anything. We went to the bank, and the bank said, "How long have you been in business?" "Oh, 3 months." Sorry.
Yeah.
No, we can't loan you money, and we needed about 10 grand for furniture.
Yeah.
And that's not really
No.
expensive. Like this is pretty basic stuff, right?
Yeah.
And so I said, "Well, I have a motorhome," and they said, "No, you can't take that as collateral." I said, "Well, put it for sale." "Yeah, no, you sell it then and buy your furniture."
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So that couldn't happen fast enough.
Yeah.
And so it dawned on me, and banks probably won't like this very much, but I had a line of credit that I was using to buy and sell cars years earlier.
Yeah.
And I went, I'm going to use my line of credit. I got 20 grand in there.
Yeah.
So I did.
Yeah.
And so we paid that off in a short order. And things grew. I tell you, things grew at a pace that it was really hard to control. Pretty soon we went from that one employee in 3 months. I had 5 in 6 months. At the end of the year, I had 7 employees in the first year.
So, I mean, I feel like I know more about your story than our viewers probably. So what is, at that point, it wasn't called Bridges Health either.
No.
You've rebranded.
Right.
So what was the service what was the gap that you saw that you were going to provide service for that then blew up?
Right. So, for example, places like SGI hired companies to help people return to work and coordinate their care.
Okay.
And I said, you need the whole team behind you. You need the therapists. You don't just need a return to work coordinator.
Yeah.
You need or a person who is a vocational counselor to help a person find a new job. Bring them all into one environment. And I was the first to do that.
Yeah.
And we exploded.
Yeah.
It was unreal.
So your first year, you're at 5 employees?
We were at 7 employees by the end of the first year.
Oh man! And how many do you have now?
Well, we have 42 employees now. We've got a blend between employees and contractors.
So so you've left your house, got your office, used your line of credit to get, which is so entrepreneurial. I love that kind of stuff. Then you start hiring people. Is that, are we talking Saskatoon or in your first year were you already working with SGI all over Saskatchewan?
Yeah, no, well, we were traveling all over the province, but within the second year, we opened an office in Prince Albert and Regina.
So that's huge growth.
It is huge growth. Probably the hardest thing I ever did was open the office in Regina because I had an employee from Saskatoon move to Regina, and that employee didn't stay there very long.
Yeah.
And the one thing that I learned, and everybody learns, I think, is that incredible employees aren't always good, incredible managers.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And so she didn't want to manage, she didn't want to grow, although she thought she did, but she realized when she got into it that it was quite a bit more than just doing the work and teaching somebody to do the work, right? Because now you're responsible for other people. And so she left, and I moved to Regina for 14 months.
Wow.
And that was the hardest part, being away from home and then coming back to Saskatoon to work on my desk in Saskatoon on weekends.
Yeah, of course.
To get caught up with what was going on here, because the people here needed help too. Yeah. I mean, we were growing fast and people needed guidance, and I was either on the phone with them from there or on the weekend, I had great people that just do what it takes to get things done.
Which is what you need.
Yeah.
Like it's funny because there's risks for business in a couple different parts of the journey so sometimes growth is a risk because you can grow not fast enough or too fast where you bring on too many people and then your finances are tough and you're strained, or when the economy slows down you cannot either adapt quick enough or shrink quick enough. So that's incredible that in a matter of 2 years you went from your house
exactly
to 3 locations. So now when you're let's stay on this topic for a bit. So now you're in the 3 different locations. What was the business called then?
IRC. Innovative Rehabilitation Consultants.
Exactly.
Right.
So you're IRC, you're expanding, you're growing. How did you get from IRC to Bridges? Why did you feel the need to rebrand?
Yeah, you know what?
And how long did that take?
Well, we just rebranded probably about 7 years ago, so we were quite a few years under the IRC brand.
Yep.
And by then we were actually we had contractors, and some were virtual offices. We had Calgary, Winnipeg, Toronto. We had a physical office in Edmonton.
Wow.
So we had grown across the country pretty fast.
Yeah.
But to your point, what did it take to get there? You know, the industry started changing and the work started changing. So some of the work that we were doing, we had to figure out how to adjust.
Yeah.
And pretty soon I felt, and we felt as a group, and I hired some good people.
Yeah.
You know, I hired a vice president, Leon Ferguson, now works for me, and they came into the scene. And I have my daughter working in the company, and they just said, you know, it doesn't reflect what we do anymore. And it took them to come to me to say, you know, let's rebrand. And it was an interesting exercise, because we spent months doing that. We hired professionals to come in and look at rebranding and whatnot. So it was interesting, because when I opened the Toronto office, we had already won a couple of awards.
Yeah.
And I thought that we would live off of that.
Yeah.
And rebrand. I thought, let's try the new brand somewhere else.
Yeah.
So I tried it in Toronto, and it didn't kick off very well.
Yeah.
So then so we pulled back and went back to our regular name, our original name. And anyway, at the end of the day, we hired rebranding, and we went through the process. And at the end of the day, we ended up using the brand that we had in Toronto, which was Bridges Health.
Yeah.
And
which is an interesting journey, because from the owner's perspective, like from your seat, I would be, and I think most leaders would be hesitant to invest time and energy into something that at the surface you don't need. We're doing well. We've grown. We're IRC. We've done well. Why would we be doing this? But and we'll get back to it. We're going to take a commercial break. But what's always intriguing to me is leaders that are humble enough to listen to their team, because that ended up opening, really, that was the start of where you're going right now, which we're going to get to. So stay tuned. After these commercial breaks, we'll be back with Garry Derenoski from Bridges Health with some more. Well, I love this story. So stay tuned for more of the story. Welcome back. We're with Garry Derenoski from Bridges Health, and we were just talking right before the commercial break about the brand change and how you had your team come up to you and say, look, what we're doing isn't where it's going. We need to rebrand. And I know, talking in between the commercial break, that wasn't easy for you, because, and as I was saying, I've seen IRC win lots of awards. I've emceed the award banquets where you guys would come up and get it, and you guys were doing really well. And then I remember the first time Bridges won, and I was like, who is this company? Where they? And then you came up and said, oh, what happened? So let's talk a bit about that journey, because your team is saying, look, what we're doing isn't necessarily where we need to be going. So that usually means, okay, can you cough up money so we can rebrand? And you're going, I don't want to cough up money. So talk about that process and why it wasn't easy, because you're right, you had this brand, you'd won awards. Yeah,
and of course we tried the Bridges Health brand in Ontario.
Yep.
Right, and it didn't fly. And so that was stuck in my mind. And of course, you're absolutely right. The awards we won, I went, how do I let go of those? Like, are they going to put the new name on all the billboards, or what's going on here? That just doesn't happen, right? And so I said, well, it didn't work there, but they just were very convincing that, look, in addition to what you shared, and absolutely that was the road they went down, they just said, you know what, this name isn't reflective of what we do anymore. We've kind of really transitioned to a health services company. We have a mental health division now. We've opened several different divisions that provide the services of holistic care, not just a focused vocational care or return to work. We're no longer just a return to work company. or an occupational therapy company providing occupational therapy, education and assistance to individuals. So we became a holistic health company, and they said the name is not catching. When we go out to sell these new services, the name matters.
Oh, of course.
And we went through the process, and I don't know how many names we went through. Oh my God, and we went through. And I even brought in friends of mine that were that I felt were strong consultants, and actually they were as strong as the consultants that we hired and paid, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And so it all came back to that name that we used in Toronto, and the Bridges Health brand. And you know what? It's been an incredible journey. The name fits what we do. It's easily recognizable. I think we have, frankly, in the years that we have had the Bridges Health brand, I think we have probably 100 times more recognition than the IRC brand.
Yeah.
We even got mixed up in IRC when we had that brand with ICR Real Estate.
Yeah.
People
Absolutely.
Going, well, are you ICR?
Yeah.
No, we're not that.
Yeah, exactly.
So this is really fitting.
So, I mean, okay, so you're doing the Bridges, you're branding to Bridges. And I know your business really obviously. In different places, you've added different divisions, different services. And then as the owner, you're looking at your company and going, okay, something's happening. So what was that tweak? What made you go, and I'm jumping ahead for the viewers because I know where the journey is now. You could have been content, and unfortunately lots of businesses kind of rest on their laurels a bit and they're not paying attention to the little details, which you were. So what was happening in your business in that point that you thought, okay, A, we need to rebrand, and B, we need to figure something out?
Well, I was watching things in the books, and one thing I've been really careful with, and having no personal accounting experience, but I know how to read a balance sheet pretty well, and I know what I like separated. So I had in the books all our services separated, and I could see the services that we had that were declining, and I was going, what do we do about that? And so I tried to fix that decline, but the industry was changing on us, and it was I come to realize that decline was not repairable. So what do you do next? Come up with something new. You have to change, and you have to change with the industry. So, and my idea is that what's in our industry, first of all, and how do I get ahead of everybody else, right? How do you get that edge that nobody else has right now?
Yeah, exactly.
And so, we got into mental health very quickly, and, before now I think there's mental health first aid trainers in many organizations, and big organizations have their own now, like our CMP and stuff, but we had mental health first aid trainers before they had that internally, right? Yeah. And that helped us with the launch, and then we grew programs for mental health inside of that, and delivered mental health services to organizations from front to back rather than just the initiating of mental health first aid. We grew that, that you could take it right through the company with other services, excuse me. So, and then it just went from there, and I went, okay, well, what else is going on in our industry? What about the old stuff? Is there anything else I could do with the old stuff? And, as the president of our national association for 4 years, 6 years in total, 1 year incoming, being mentored by the president, and then I mentored the new president coming in. So out of our association, I was the only president in history to have that role for 4 years. It was a 2-year role. And I was elected twice, and I jokingly tell all my friends that I was elected twice because nobody else wanted to do it. But frankly, I disrupted so much in the association that nobody did want to take it over. It was halfway through transition itself, right? So we transitioned that organization, and proud to say during that period of time, I think we doubled our membership almost.
Well, and I mean, talking a bit out of school probably, but my perception of you is you've always valued community in terms of, that's where I met you actually, at a community gala. But so you're involved in your associations, you're community minded in that way. And then I know we've talked without the cameras filming that how that community, you being plugged in, being the president of the association, has helped springboard your business in a new direction. Now I know some of it's very secretive and you're still developing, but let's talk about that angle. Like, so you're involved in the association. How has that for people that are wondering why should I get involved in community? I mean, because that's what we should do.
Right.
But there's a byproduct of it.
Right.
So what was the byproduct for you, and why is that important for you?
Yeah, so I got to know a lot of people through being the president. I traveled the country representing our professional association, and of course got to be really well known. And a person by the name of Vicky Scott, I got to know quite well, and she's really involved in the community, her community in Toronto and stuff like that. And she recognized my personality matched with the personality of another individual that was quite entrepreneurial in Toronto, and he's an IT developer, and so she put us together, and I think that I met this individual called Reed Hanoun. He's done a lot of interesting things in IT. His whole life has been in developing IT things, and I went, wow, this is pretty impressive. But he had this idea, and I had the conversation initially. I said, this sounds cool. It sounds interesting if it could get there. But then when you're in the early stages of something and nothing is really fully developed, or nothing that really works.
And it's a new idea.
Exactly. And he wanted an investment.
Yeah.
I went, whoa, that's a lot of money.
Yeah. Retirement money.
But that's what my wife says. Are you going to spend all our retirement money?
You got to get out of the house. Yeah.
So I don't tell her how much there is.
Yeah. Of course.
But anyway. So Reed was persistent, and now where we are today. We invested, we became a partner. I became a founding partner in the organization, founding investor.
Yep.
And we helped the organization really develop the program because we baited a lot of things, and through the beta and through training and through trial
and your experience, because you know that industry. You know it.
Yeah. We got the right people too.
Yeah.
And so I think we all recognize that the partnership's important, and that's something that we talked about earlier. In my first several years of business, I went, I don't want any partners. What do I want to partner for? I'm doing just fine without anybody. But I reflect on that and I go, how much further could I have been even today, as well as things have turned out, if I'd have done something like this and partnered much earlier, right? And and partner has his partnership and stuff, and what you give and what you get back, and in those negotiations and stuff like that is sometimes challenging, and sometimes you go, holy man, when's the investment coming back?
Of course,
right? But you know what? With all good things, when you do it right, there's a massive return, and we're very excited about what we're doing. And there's lots of stuff we can talk about in terms of what this has done and where this is going. And I think that it's the future. Yeah, totally the future.
Well, and it's all based on return to work, rehab stuff, right? Like
Yeah, I can give you the Reader's Digest version
give it to
of it.
us.
I mean, so when we started with this process, we thought that we were going to do the return to work portion. But to do the return to work portion, you really need to know what all the job demands are of an individual, right? So we started what we call PDA, Physical Job Demands Analysis. Okay. And we're the first that I'm aware of, the way we have done it in the world, to have a program like this. And now we've digitized what everybody did in paper pencil. Yeah. And we did it paper pencil too. Yeah. I call paper pencil. Of course, they're typed in.
Yeah, of course. Like that.
But
you mean chalkboard and chalk?
That kind of thing. Yeah. Yeah. Oh no, it's actually on the wall.
Exactly.
Stone and chisel. And that's really what it is like compared to this digitized program.
Of course.
That's how far advanced this is. And so now we have a digitized program that's live and real time, and you don't wait weeks for a report. You have things available for your client the day it's done. Now we download video into the program, and if a physician or a practitioner or a therapist wants to see what a person does, and even an employee doesn't necessarily do a great job of articulating what they do.
Yeah, of course.
But this gives you, a picture's 1,000 words, right?
Yeah.
A video is 1,000,000 words.
Yeah.
Right. So we do the video. And so now we've got, that's our centerpiece. But on the front side now, we've just finished launching artificial intelligence. And the artificial intelligence intent is to, first of all, to be a safety and injury prevention module. And so now I can video you with an iPhone and download it instantly into the program. And then we run the kinematics, takes about 5 minutes.
Yeah.
And it identifies all the risks. Shoulder, the video you lifting, carrying, reaching. Yeah. All the risks are identified, whether it be on knees or back or shoulders. And so we're using this as an injury prevention tool. A huge uptake on this, and organizations everywhere are interested in this. You know, the thing is, even when you're in the early stages of selling a product, is one thing that the founder has shared with me. He says, you know what, in the early stages we may not have had a lot of sales, but now we're at that place, and we go, nobody back then ever said you had a shitty product.
Yeah, of course.
They all liked it.
Yeah.
So you knew you were on the right path, right?
Yeah.
And then the return to work module. Now we've added a return to work module, and with the program, I can export a document to a physician, or right out of the program.
Right there
to a physician or physiotherapist, and they would identify the things that a person can do, what their abilities are, and the program now decides what percentage of job the person could do going back to work the same day.
Which helps return to work so much. Like, that's my whole life
Exactly.
in my business.
Exactly. But in addition to that, when you do the job demands of an entire company, then the program does searches for the remainder of your day to help you find other things in there. So no longer do you have a subjective opinion where people think they're going to put you back to work and give you a trial and see how it works. Now you have objective information.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
that's incredible.
very cool.
And it's cool for me to see how your business has grown, the journey you've taken to get there. But what has struck a chord to me in this conversation is the team. How you're now recognizing how team is really how you can catapult to the next level. And it's showing. Like, that's giving you capacity. Really, team gives you capacity. Like I've always said, it happened to me early enough in my career, thankfully, who was a humbling experience, to realize that Evan Drisner isn't the business. Evan Drisner can open the door for our business, but if I don't have people that are in the back making sure they have their place to hang up their coat, I'm using the analogy of opening a door, but you understand. If you don't have the people in the back to make what the promises or the sales pitch that I gave complete, done well, and the customer's taken care of, doesn't matter how good of a sales pitch you can have.
And believe in it. But something as important, or probably the most important cornerstone of all of this, is family.
Yeah.
You know, my wife put up with a lot over the years. My first 7 years, I worked 18 years at SGI. My first 7 years in the business, I worked the equivalent of 18 years and 40-hour weeks. And so virtually slept at the office. And we're talking working 7 days a week with Christmas Day off for 7 years.
Yeah, of course.
And it didn't phase on me at the time. You know, my head was down. People said, I had good friends say, you're just going to burn out. And I went, I don't think I will, because I won't let it happen.
Yeah, of course.
You know, I just felt strong.
Yeah.
And I was driven.
Yeah.
And my wife put up with that a lot.
Yeah.
She raised the kids.
Yeah.
You know, there's one day that 10 o'clock, I left the office. My son was driving age already. He drove himself to the hockey rink. I was up in the stands, and my wife was standing beside a friend. And I showed up at the second period, and the friend next to her that I had never met before, give her the elbow and said, "Who's the boyfriend?"
Yeah, of course.
You know?
Exactly. That's crazy. Yeah, you're right. It takes a village. Garry, thank you so much for being our guest. Your story is always inspiring to me. And I hope Bridges Health continues to grow and succeed. And really appreciate the story. I know our listeners will too. So make sure you stay tuned for other shows on Spotlight, and of course, upcoming episodes of The Road Less Traveled. I'm your host, Evan Drisner. Thanks for tuning in.